Blog Talk Radio.
Let's go. It's time to attack. We the smartest, fastest, and most vicious. We gonna put them in their place. You coming on out? We're gonna play.
And he's gonna fire deep. Puts it there inside the 10.
Throw to Superman.
Good route by Edelman. Now they come on a reverse to the near side and a quick run.
What up, football fans out there, and welcome to another edition of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. This is the show where we talk nothing but NFL football, and at this time of year, some NFL draft-related stuff. So, you might get some college names, some college news in there. But anyway, I'm one of your hosts. I'm Dev McMillan. I'm here at the round table with my partner in crime. We got Fred Purdue in the building. What up, Fred?
What's going on, man? Long time no talk. I mean, it's been some draft stuff going on, and we got
no doubt. The draft is rapidly approaching, so I guess the last time you guys heard from us was during Fred's round 1 mock draft. But we back with you just to get a little draft talk in again before the big day comes. Just gonna spread some things out here and there, but we got some NFL topics, some football-related topics that we want to get to before Fred takes us into a few more positions briefly and players that we might want to watch as the draft gets closer. So, hey, I think it's time to go in, Fred, and I say we start off with some quick slants. And the first thing I want to talk about is Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette of the Jags, Fred's favorite player in the whole league, has been arrested due to a suspended driver's license. Like, this is just the little stuff that it's like, come on, dudes. Like, y'all just mess up over little stuff. Now, he was arrested on Thursday afternoon after a traffic stop. He was charged with knowingly driving with a suspended license, speeding, and improper window tint on the side and rear windows of his vehicle. He paid a $1,500 bond and was released after spending less than 30 minutes in the Duval County Jail. Just these little things, man. The Jags released a statement. They said they were aware of the situation. They're gathering more information. Wouldn't have any further comment at this time. But it's just little things like this that'll get you suspended for a game or two when everything goes live and everything matters. Like, what's your thoughts on this when you saw this?
And this one was crazy because when I look at stuff like this, I'm saying to myself, you haven't been all that productive. You're not a super highly sought after player. I mean, the Jags saw you as somebody, but you haven't done much, and you're getting in trouble constantly. It's not a good look. And this Jags team, this is what's going on with this team. Last year it was, this is the year that they're going to take down the mighty Patriots, and that didn't happen. And everything just went south, and it's just a continuing snowball effect.
Yeah, I just, I'm not even, by me saying this, the little stuff, like I'm not even expecting these guys to get in trouble on some big stuff, but just little negligent stuff like you're riding around speeding without a license. You have tint that you probably know is a little too dark for, law enforcement down there. Those are things you know. So basically you're going out of the house saying, I don't care. I don't give a F. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of stuff leads to little things like this. But it also messes with your money because if you end up getting a suspension from Roger Goodell, then it's all going to be, it's going to be a big problem for you when it really didn't have to be. This whole thing stems from a speeding ticket that he received in Jacksonville Beach back in November. He was cited for driving 12 miles per hour over the 25 mile per hour speed limit, which those are the little ones that I hate, and it's 20, like who drives 25 miles per hour anywhere? So those speed limits are unfair to me in the first place, but you're driving 12 miles over the posted speed limit. That carried a $204 fine. He never paid that, so his case got sent to collection in March, which basically leads to a suspended license, especially down in your state of Florida. You don't pay that speeding ticket, your license gets suspended.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's like, just little dumb stuff. So now he got pulled over for basically doing 65 and a 45 with a suspended license and intent. And he actually tried to schmooze the cop a little bit, talking about I just left the stadium, I'm a Jaguar player. My dude.
That usually never works.
Jags didn't do enough last year for that to work on any cop. I'd have been like, "And
if your name's Tom Brady, that works. Your name is I don't know. Heck,
you finish off that last season you finish off that last season, the season before when you went to the AFC Championship game and your cornerback boldly bragged that they were going to beat the Patriots and get in the Super Bowl and beat the Eagles or the Vikings. You finish that season off, then you might have a little window of, I play for the Jags. That might work. But they're not happy right now. Like, you're kind of in flux. You didn't change quarterbacks. You don't know what the Jags are going to be. You know what they were the last time you saw them. So, nah, dog. That's not going to work right now. I'm a Jags player. Like, come on, dude. Last time the Jags been anything worth bragging about or worth giving favors to. So, all right, so that's that. We'll see what happens to him. In college transitioning to NFL news, your man Nick Saban basically calls out players leaving early for the NFL. And one of his former players actually fired back. What do you know about this situation?
Well, the Jacksonville Jaguars have had a hell of an offseason because it just seems like they can't stay out of the news. Coach Nick Saban, I swear by the guy. I think he's the best in the business, and until someone else dethrones him, not once, not twice, give me like 3 or 4 times, then we can start talking about it. Like, do it consecutively, and then we can talk about somebody else being the best in the business. But when I saw this story, Nick said, and he's actually very right. He sounds like the old grandpa that just has to comment on something every time. But in reality, they're at a higher rate than any other time we've ever seen players coming out. You have guys with undraftable grades, 5th round, 6th round. I know I'm quoting him verbatim, but it's kind of one of those things where you have a 5th round grade and you're coming out early. Why? He called out.
And then you're getting mad at the coach for being real about it and saying it. Like,
exactly. He
trying to help you.
He called out former safety Ronnie Harrison, who I really liked when he was at Alabama. It was kind of one of those subliminal shots. I have a player that came out in the 3rd round last year. Well, we all know there was only one 3rd round player that came from Alabama that went to a pro team in Jacksonville. I mean, shots fired. I mean, old school 1990s, early 2000s rap battle style. So, we're not gonna say your name. We don't want to make you too famous. So, he came out and said what he said, and it's true. And Ronnie Harrison basically said, "Keep your name out your mouth." So, it's one of those things like, why are you mad at him for your bad mistake? I understand you want to live your dream of playing in the NFL, but you could have came back one more year, and you possibly could have maybe gone into the 2nd round, maybe even been a 1st rounder because the safety class is okay, not great. So why not come out next year instead of living your dream? Yeah, you make $750,000, and probably after taxes it's about $400,000, and I don't feel bad for you because guess what? You make more than I do. But at the end of the day, that $750,000 could be, I don't know, $13 million, $10 million. Living in Florida, no state tax. That's a significant amount of money. Just saying.
Yeah.
Nick Saban. Another win for the Nick Saban.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the whole thing comes down to, I guess a former player wouldn't like his name being used in an example of this guy shouldn't have declared for the draft when he did. But, sometimes you just got to man up sometimes. I mean, because you're sitting there. I mean, I know you're expecting loyalty, but I don't think it was anything disloyal. He was really just being honest. And if you're sitting there and you're seeing how your career went, how it's going so far, that there's merit to what he's saying. That's the only reason you got upset in the first place. So, he got his $1.3 million, and he's another step closer to free agency. But he's basically just telling you stay in, had you stayed another year or so in this program, then, who knows how much your draft stock would have shot up. Like, I'm not mad at either party in this situation. Like, you feel like you got to go when you got to go, you got family obligations or whatever that may be, then you do what you have to do. But when somebody's telling you that your value could be higher if you wait a while, okay, don't get mad at them. Just say, I can't do that right now, coach. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do that. I don't have the time for that. But don't get mad at them for using you as an example when you probably could be a little bit richer had you waited. Yeah. All right. Anyway, the now defunct Alliance of American Football League, it abruptly shut down about 7-8 weeks into its 10-week season, and now two athletes who played for the league have filed a class action lawsuit against the league alleging that they violated a breach of contract when they basically all of a sudden folded up the tent earlier this month. I've been seeing some people from this league actually getting picked up by NFL teams during the off season. We'll see if they can stick. But what are your thoughts about this? The lawsuit was filed in California by Colton Schmidt, who was a punter for the Birmingham Iron, and Reggie Northrup, who was a linebacker for the Orlando Apollos. My first thoughts are kind of like, you definitely feel some type of way when somebody breaches a contract. But I'm like, this league, in my opinion, and I don't know if there was a whole lot of planning in the works before we heard much about it, but it seemed like it was thrown together so suddenly. Like, I'm not really surprised at it folding up just as suddenly. And I'm not saying that the players don't have a case here, because they absolutely have a case. But it's just weird to see, and I don't really know what people expected from this league. What are your thoughts on this?
Man, first off, this AAF league, college football is a much better brand, and quite honestly,
it should be ASS league.
I would rather watch Clemson versus Alabama in the national title game, 1, 2, and 3, or I'm sorry, 1 and 2 plus the that whole thing where they play it again. They play it in the semifinals. I'd rather watch all of that bowl. I'd rather watch this bowl game sucks ass bowl than that bad football, because that's what it really was. I mean, let's just be real about it. These are reject NFL players. It's football, so I'll watch it, but I wasn't going to pay for any tickets. So let's just get that out the way. And the only good thing I got out of it was I love Steve Spurrier, and Steve Spurrier he's the most quotable coach in the world. So anytime
Spurrier got to get in front of the camera.
He's a troll.
Hindsight is 50-50. What?
he's
say anything.
So,
what the funniest part about this was, Fred, is that this league started with the plan of eventually becoming a respected developmental league for the NFL. So, I mean, that was your plan. So I guess what these inaugural seasons were supposed to be were auditions to see if they can get some NFL backing, to eventually be able to be branded as an NFL minor league. Once you get under that shield and you get that money prints itself in the NFL. So that would have been success for them. But 8 weeks in, I guess they figure, like, man, we can't even get through this first season, and the NFL doesn't seem impressed so far. So you shut down operations, and the craziest part about it is after you shut down operations, a few NFL teams went out there and picked at the carcass and grabbed a few guys. So it was like, you did develop a few people, but it was all for naught, because now you're out of business. You're receiving a bunch of lawsuits, and the NFL still came and basically turkey vultured your league and saw the roadkill on the side of the road and came down there and picked the carcass clean. I know the Eagles signed about 3 or 4 of them dudes themselves.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate that you were looking to be that for the league. You go out of business, and the league still is like, thank you. With no check.
Yeah.
So,
the league. I think what the biggest issue in all of this is not only the breach of contract, but you also have executives getting in on this as well. James Ernest Robertson, he was a former director of community relations for the Birmingham Iron, and he's the big thing I see is there was a failure to pay wages. Also, there's claiming fraud and false promises. I mean, the thing is, this league, it was great on the football side, but the financial side, it was a mess. And, you know, the XFL, they decided we'll just hold off and wait. You know, this is Vince McMahon, Mr. Splash himself, Mr. You're fired himself. And he said, I'll take the safe approach. I'll let this other league come out. We'll see what they can do. And if we have to be a competitor, that's fine. We're talking business, not football, and that's a huge, huge difference. But he took the safe route, and now he's going to say they made this mistake, and I'm going to capitalize on it, and I'm going to make an exciting league. The one thing I do, I will take away from all of this is for all of those people that they say, oh, college football makes so much money. Do you see how much it costs to not only run an organization, not just the organization, but the league itself? But we're talking about, and it took a billionaire to put a $250 million investment into a league that was falling apart, and it still fell apart. And you're talking about 136 schools. And I understand you can pay players if you wanted to, but in theory, could you really go and pay, you know, UL Lafayette or Utah State? Can they really go pay their players off of the revenue that they get, especially when you're operating in the red on a regular basis? And it takes donations and TV money and all of this other stuff. Do you really think if this professional league who has NFL players, if they can't stay afloat, what do you think college football teams are doing? What happens if you don't have a billionaire like Phil Knight or someone like that putting in money into your organization? Just saying.
Yeah. Well, speaking of professional leagues not named the NFL, we all know the XFL is making a comeback. And I don't know. The first time around, it was weird. I mean, it was interesting to see the different spin they were going to put on football. But they're still looking for ideas to be able to attract viewers. And the latest of those ideas is 3 options for an extra point. So after a touchdown, the commissioner, Oliver Luck, said the teams will have the option to attempt a 1-point conversion from the 2-yard line, a 2-point try from the 5-yard line, or a 3-point attempt from the 10-yard line. So basically, they literally have a 9-point touchdown possible in this league. What's even crazier than that is they're also experimenting with some overtime rules, and the extra quarter will feature 44 players on the field at the same time because each team's offense and defense will be squaring off on opposite ends of the fields and alternate possessions, with the offenses receiving up to 5 attempts at a 2-point conversion. The defensive turnover will be worth 1 point, and the team with the most points at the end of the shootout wins the game. So the extra point, the 3 options, and the experimenting with their overtime rules. Like, how do you see this? Like, will you take this seriously at all? Like, because I remember the first time around. I mean, you have to know the XFL, founded by Vince McMahon. You have to know it's going to be a show, and that's first and foremost. It has to be a show. But being the football purist that you are, like, are you just so engulfed in the game that you're like, look, I'll watch football at any level, any type of show, or are you like, this is some BS, man, I ain't watching that? What's your thoughts?
I'll give it 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on how bad baseball is and how bad I really just don't care about the NBA Finals because you know the Warriors are just killing everybody. I'm still gonna watch it. I'll still watch the NBA. It's probably gonna be better than anything that the the XFL can do. I don't really remember the XFL. I was a little bit on the younger side. That was like the early 2000s, and it really kind of fell apart really fast. I was never into like wrestling and Vince McMahon and all of that, so that I just knew it was going to be very cheesy. I thought it was going to be like for anybody that like really played video games back in that time, like NFL Blitz. I thought that was what it would be, where it was just the Wild West of football. There were going to be no rules or anything. I thought you'd see dudes suplexing people all over the field, but it was actual football. I actually knew somebody that actually played in that league, and he hate me. He happens to be from my hometown, so that's great. But at the end of the day, I think
that's funny.
Yeah,
I know somebody he dated when he became an Eagle.
I had the pleasure. I know him more for his brother, who actually played in high school and played at the University of Florida and is playing in Canada now, Chris Rainey. But for me, when I look at this league, it's like I'm okay with it being football, but is it just gonna be just outrageous? I mean, a 9-point touchdown, that's a bit much. That's like adding a 6-point shot to the NBA during the playoffs. We're not even going to experiment with this thing. We're just going to do it. And who lets the best man win? Curry just jacks up 6-point shots and the game's over by halftime. I mean, do you really want to see this? Is it really worth it? I mean, don't bastardize the game. Don't do it.
Yeah, and that's my only thoughts on it. It's like, okay, I understand that, Vince McMahon products have to be a show, but it's like, I don't know, you might end up making a mockery of the sport, and you'll probably get your casuals who's more engulfed in entertainment than they are, just the actual methodology and strategy of football games. So I'm pretty sure he'll experience some modicum of success, but I don't know. Playing with the rules that we're used to, we'll see how it works out.
Give me regular rules. Throw guys like Chad Ochocinco out there and Antonio Cromartie, and let's see what they can do in a 7-on-7 type of situation where there's just a ton of points scored, and make it an all-star game. I might watch. Just might watch.
Yeah.
And mic them up too. Yeah, I might watch. I don't want to see old people get hit. Old washed up players. But I also don't want to see. I don't want to see the third string guy that played at Texas when he was a 5-star recruit and couldn't make it in college. I don't want to see that. I mean, it's bad football, and I need good football.
Right. All right. Well, speaking of good football, hopefully good football, the NFL draft is less than 2 weeks away. It kicks off on Thursday, April 25th. Of course, goes through that weekend, or most of that weekend, ends on Saturday, April 27th. So, we're heading into our descent. We're about to land this puppy. So during our descent, just want Fred to give us, for about 7 to 10 minutes, give us some more news leading up to the draft. Talk about different positions and different players that we need to keep an eye on as the clock ticks and we move closer to April 25th. What you got for us?
Well, this is the time of year where there's a lot of smoke screens. Nothing that is said is ever believed. I encourage you, if you've ever heard of a
lion time.
Yeah, it's lion time. It's lion time. I mean, it's bad. I mean, it went from, Dwayne Haskins was a top 5 pick to he might fall all the way out of the first round. I mean, I'm hearing everything across the board. I'm just like, what? I mean, I get Dwayne Haskins is not a top 10 pick. To me, he is not a top 10 pick. But because quarterbacks get pushed up so much, this class is kind of like that class with Christian Ponder and Jake Locker, guys like that. So next year is the class you want. We're hearing rumors already. We haven't even gotten to this year's draft, and we're talking about tanking for Tua. I mean, teams have a 2-year plan to be really bad to get Trevor Lawrence. We don't even know what Trevor Lawrence is going to look like as a sophomore. And we're talking about just tanking for a team, and you don't know what the NFL will look like. So nothing you believe or nothing that is said is actually believable. You have Kyler Murray taking visits to the Giants. He's not getting out of that. I honestly think he's going to end up being the number one pick. I think but then you also have Josh Rosen, who, Josh Rosen he's being talked about as someone else's quarterback, whether it be Washington, whether it be the Giants, who say they don't want to spend a first-round pick on a guy who was drafted last year, but they'd rather roll with Eli. And I'm like, keep rolling with Eli. You deserve everything you get for those 2 Super Bowls that I had to suffer through. I hope your organization burns to the ground. So great job. You've already done part of the job. Go pay Sterling Shepard, a slot receiver, $40 million. Good job. You can go into the abyss. So when you hear about, for me, when I look at this draft, I've looked at the offensive line, and it's a pretty good group. It's a pretty good group top to bottom. There's no stud left tackle like we've always thought about the game being. You have to have this stud left tackle. Well, those guys don't grow on trees, and number 2, the game has become a little bit less left tackle, right tackle dependent. So, the guys like Joe Thomas, Orlando Pace, guys like that, those guys are – my theory is those guys now don't matter as much. You can roll with a slightly above average guy to protect your quarterback because the quick passing game is like a running game now. And the interior linemen, for example, like Dallas has, Zach Martin, Travis Frederick, those guys are the most important guys on the field when it comes to your offensive line because that's where a ton of the running game is coming from, coming out of the shotgun run game. And what you're also getting is you get guys like Chris Lindstrom from the center guard from Boston College, who he can play all 5 positions across the line in a pinch, and his versatility makes his stock go up. You get guys like Andre Dillard who can really move. He's that dancing bear, but he can play inside too. Jawan Taylor, he's a tackle, but when we say tackle, he's a heavy-footed tackle. He's one of those guys. He fits in the power run game. He's quick on his feet, but he's not that dancing bear. And then you turn around and you get you end up with a Jonah Williams, who I've watched Jonah Williams from pretty much since he was a senior in high school. And I remember he was the right tackle as a freshman in Alabama when Cam Robinson was there, who's now with the Jaguars. Now you have him moving from the right side to the left side. He has the size. He has the arm length. And they're talking about him as being a better guard. He'll be a better pro guard than he is a tackle. Tackle is not valued as much, but that's also because they don't grow on trees. And if you get one, you don't get rid of him. So this offensive line class is a very, very interesting class because you're going to get there's a skill set for everybody, and I think what versatility is what's the name of the game for this year's class, especially on the interior.
All right, man. Well, it sounds like there's some interesting prospects to keep an eye on as the draft approaches. So, like we've been telling you all along, just stay with us. Just check back every week. We may have something for you leading up to the draft. If any big news in the NFL comes out, we will jump on. We will talk about it. So, look, man, until we get into that final stretch prior to draft time, you know what it is. Fred and I are here. Fred, let them know where they can get in touch with you on social media, so if they need to holler at you with any questions, concerns, trash talk, whatever, they can get with you.
You can catch me on Twitter, Fred Purdue CFB. I'm mourning the loss of one Dwayne Wade. I will not get to see him anymore, so if you catch a little bit of basketball talk on that Twitter page, that's why. But you can always check me out there, college football talk, as well as the NFL. Those spring games are rolling out, so it's bad when the spring games are better than the AAF. No shots taken.
Yeah, so as that stuff rolls out, make sure you check for Quick Slants as well. It's our college football show. But this has been another episode of Cover 2 with McMillan and Purdue. From my main man, Purdue, I'm McMillan. Like we always tell you guys at this time, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance, and we'll see you chumps on top.
Going up to LaBelle. Touchdown. The big screen. Sanchez over the middle. Touchdown. Play action. Cutler wide open. Sanzenbacher.
War Room Sports, www.warroomsports.com. What? Ain't no more to it.